Welcome to Range Time. I'm your host Ghost, and today we're going to be talking about my thoughts on how Ace can continue to improve. I've been using Ace for over a year and a half, nearly 350,000 rounds, which is less than many actually. But I've developed some of my thoughts from engaging with the community over that time, setting up this YouTube channel, and just my performance as a result of using Ace. So with that, let's get started. I'll be putting up some B-roll footage, mostly just for something to look at. Maybe you'll garner something from it, or see how I shoot some things. It's literally just me hammering out for an hour to have something show in the background. So it doesn't really have to do necessarily with what we're talking about, but you can see just some relatively unedited footage of me shooting various drills and stages. So just something for you to look at. This is going to be kind of podcasty / ASMR-y, I guess. I'm not really used to the voiceover stuff, so we'll do our best and see where we can go. But starting first, the first thing, none of this is in order. I wrote down some thoughts that Ace could or could not implement in the future. That's up to them. But I know over the last year and a half, it's grown significantly from the numerous new stages that are unlike what had been present before, to the live events getting even more engaging, from the various pistol platforms and stuff they've added. If nothing else, Ace has continued to evolve and at a pretty good pace for the size of the development team, not being a AAA studio and things like that. I know as a result, my abilities have grown significantly, having limited time to go out and actually do live fire, and it definitely encourages me to dry fire way more, even though it's not the same as like a dedicated dry fire. That this is something that I've stated before. It's a supplement to dry fire, but I've used tools like Cool Fire Trainer, like Manus X, like Laser Range, Smokeless Range, Miles Gear, all various platforms and stuff. And I'll tell you, Ace is still the one that I consistently use. I would say 3 to 5 times a week when I'm around. If I'm out of town, I take it with me. I'll use it after hours, but I'd say on average 3 to 5 times a week, if not more, on average. So it's the thing that stood the test of time, whereas most of the other things unfortunately end up in a box down in the basement. So keep that in mind as we discuss some of these things moving forward. One of the things I would like to see Ace implement is on the thrills ranges. You can utilize the par timer, or the shot timer, the pack timer. One of the things I would like to be able to do is adjust the par times, as well as a random start versus the 3-second start. During a normal drill, the shot timer is configured so that it's random, so people can't game the timer, jump the gun essentially, and I get that. But I'd like to be able to implement that on the Ranger, for example. When I'm working some of the drills that I have out of some of the books that I'm using, it requires setup of targets at 10 yards with 1 yard apart. Being able to not only set a par time for myself for those drills, but also be able to set a random start versus a 3-second start would be something that I'd like to see implemented. I'm not really sure how it would be implemented, other than maybe under settings for thrills or something like that, where that could be adjusted. But again, this is just something that I think would increase my training value, potentially that of others. So that's one of the things that we'd like to see implemented. Allowing the selection and placement of all objects on the Ranger. I understand, like, a stage designer is something that probably is beaten into the heads of the developers and stuff over at Ace. I'm not here to say that's not something that I want. I'm here to say that I get that takes iteration and it takes time and significant resourcing. Something that I would take less time, I think, and still be extremely valuable is being able to put various additional objects onto the Ranger Light. So things like static steel plates would be great. Being able to set up almost the steel challenge stages almost, right? Or being able to set up the transitions between some of those, right? If I want to work on a specialized transition with those types of targets. it would be great to be able to select additional objects, so increasing the total number of objects there. Obviously, the end goal, right? We'll talk about it. Is the stage designer. Everybody's like, oh my gosh, the stage designer. This is great. I've seen games where this has been implemented kind of well, in games where you end up with a bunch of garbage. I'm hoping that there's a way to not overload the system with a bunch of trash. Like if there's a way to somehow upload the file and then a user can download it or something, or if there's a way to use a seed where the seed puts the level into the person's system or whatever. What I worry about is that like uploading all of these garbage stages to a server and then just letting them sit there as trash wastes a lot of space. So I don't think that centralized storage of those things is something that I would advise personally. The ability to have like an overlay or some type of file that's lightweight, maybe that people can put in a code to be able to like seed it, that might be a way to do it. But yeah, a full-fledged stage builder would be awesome to see, but I can definitely see there's some challenges with how to implement it at a multiplayer level, for so many people and so many different iterations. It's it's something where maybe they get submitted and they get considered kind of like they do today, but you could have local copies and stuff like that. Maybe that's a workaround. So something to consider there. Something that would be cool would be like handset tracking pre and post draw displayed. So if you're working from a holster or from low ready, it would be great to be able to see the some type of measurement of time to like the beep happens, time to grip the gun, or time that the gun starts to move from a low ready, for example, and then the amount of wiggle, almost like what the Manus X does, right? But the amount of wiggle on presentation would be kind of an interesting bit of information that I'd like to be able to see, even if it's under just skills, for example, like the targeted, or no, the Trigicon one there. If it was something where like, okay, I know I can work it from the holster and I can see how much wiggle I'm getting and get a score out of that, or from the low ready, same kind of deal. Watch that kind of curve. I think that would be good to because I know, like for me, you'll see it during the B-roll. Like sometimes I'll come up on the target and overshoot it significantly, right, and come back down. So I know I'm overshooting my eyes, and especially happens during transitions and stuff when I'm going really fast. So that would kind of be a thing that I'd like to be able to see, that type of data presented. And again, it could just be in skills, not necessarily taking up the dashboard for all things, but it would be a neat little skill for people who are working on the draw or working on presentation transitions, things like that, being able to see that movement. A fundamental drill series that generates a list of stage recommendations based on performance would be extremely advantageous for a lot of folks. So it tracks already the accuracy, precision, and speed. Let's say that a person is having a tough time focusing on accuracy. The ISSF 25 meter stage thrown out, there are some stages in ACE that can help you build accuracy more so than precision and speed, for example. Maybe we see that the user really needs to work on the fundamentals, and all these, like the speed is lacking significantly. Work on those fundamentals, right? Make a set of recommendations being like, hey, based on your scores, these 5 stages would be something that would be good for you to work on. Try these for your practice sessions for the week, and then have that update every week, just like a weekly series almost for the user. And it could just be as simple as being in the mobile app. It doesn't necessarily need to be in the VR app, but something that analyzes data and provides specific recommendations to the shooter to be able to say, hey, we see that you're doing these things. Here's some drills that you can work the fundamentals on to get better in these arenas. And I think that would be extremely helpful for those that are around my rank. Like I'm a B class USPSA shooter and Steel Challenge shooter, being able to focus rather than just going wild for stages that we like, or going for stages that we think provide some value, but perhaps there are better stages out there for us to work on those fundamentals. Multiple profiles for a player account. For example, the ability to have a profile for low ready when I want to do just speed work, not really worrying about the draw, and then one for a holster, because sometimes it's a hardware limitation. Like if the controller goes out of view of the cameras, it can sometimes throw off the presentation of the pistol from draw, and it overshoots, and then it finds it all of a sudden, and then things kind of go sideways sometimes. I'd like to have the two separated, not only for the sake of like the gamification of it, balancing that with the training aspect of it, because I'm one of those people that does both. But I'd also like to see just how far apart that is, how different that is. If I had a profile that was completely holster only for myself, and then the one that's not, if there's a significant difference there, I know exactly where I need to work. I mean, I could tell myself right now I need to work on the draw and presentation and establishing that grip. Who doesn't? But that would be one of the things that would kind of be neat. But also, like in a family, right, we can use the guest mode. This is a workaround where it pauses the scoring and everything for 60 minutes. That's fine. But by being able to have like multiple profiles on the same headset without having to log out, log into someone else's Ace account, do that kind of a thing, that would be kind of neat. The way that I can see this being abused is the sharing of passwords. Be like, oh, just make a profile and there you go. Like this happens on other subscription based platforms, and I get that. There's ways to combat that. Sometimes it's a little difficult, especially for those who travel. But for example, like not allowing the profile to be on two headsets at once, right? If you want to play with two people in multiplayer in the same household, yeah, you got to buy two subscriptions. You could also tie the number of profiles to the number of handset purchased from the store and add one to each one. So let's say you purchase a holster or you purchase a handset, right? You get two profiles with it. And then the one after that, you get an additional one. And one after that, you get an additional one. It's not a be-all solution, for a family of 5, let's say. But it's something where you could like have one for you, the primary user, and one for family or something like that. So it's kind of a in-between solution to, again, avoid someone sharing their account with 100 people, for example, online. Not that I would think that number would be realistic, but let's say 5 people across their shooting community, and saving that $20 a month. It really could benefit Ace in getting their goals with that extra money. So to combat piracy, I would say something like that would be put into place to help out with that. Another thing that I'd like to see, and this might not be hard to implement, I don't know, the custom series generation idea. So being able to pick like 5 to 8 drills per go, and be able to tag them somehow with the heart feature or like a checkbox or something, where those drills are in a series, and if anyone shoots those exact drills in that exact order, their scores could be compared against yours. Like the data in the back end says, yep, you shot these same 5 drills. Here's the leaderboard for the results of those 5 drills. It would be nice to be able to implement that in a multiplayer somehow as well. So multiple people can shoot the drill, and then it detects, okay, everybody shot this stage, we're moving on to the next one. To be able to make it more match-like in the online variation, that would be awesome. I could see that being extremely fun and valuable for people who want to go out and do like a weekly competition, or even just set up like Steel Challenge without having to manually calculate it. And yeah, I know everybody's gonna be like, "Oh, it's not the 5, it's not the." I don't care. I'm just thinking like, if you could set up the 8 stages, shoot them all once, and then see who did the best out of that. I mean, yes, it's not Steel Challenge, and don't lose your friggin' mind over it, but it would be cool to just see who comes out on top, right? It's just for fun. Do it 5 times, and whoever wins the 4 out of the 5 times or whatever, best out of 5, something like that. You can work around it. So yeah, custom series generation regardless would be awesome. Being able to set that up so the scoreboards track across the user. So if, for example, you go on Discord and say, I shot these 5 drills, see if you can beat me. Cool, here you go for the week. Touched on it already, the enabling series to be shot in a multiplayer range. Somehow detecting, yep, that person shot this stage already, we're going to move on to the next person, or deny that person from shooting until all people have gone, and then give the tallies at the end would be kind of cool. I just think that's neat versus having to write it down. Yeah, I got another one here that I was thinking about. A lot of the IPSC shooters and various competition shooters that we use different targets and things like that, and the standard leaderboards for scoring, it has to keep the same target in order to remain fair. Like if you had someone who wanted to use PCSL targets, another person to use all IPSC targets, and another person to use all USPSA targets or whatever, you have different scoring zones and different advantages and things like that. So you couldn't be all on the same leaderboard. But the, the ability to add modifiers that toggle things like this and just remove people from the leaderboard with those modifiers on, I think would be valuable for some folks. Being able to say, all right, every cardboard target is an IPSC target, or every cardboard target is a USPSA target, whatever. It may cause some issues in the back end somehow, but I think that would be valuable. But yeah, just don't give them a score on the leaderboard. If they want to practice that way, great. If they just want to change up targets and work with whatever they're working with, that's great too. That keeps the leaderboards fair because everybody's shooting the same stuff. I personally don't think it matters too much. A target's a target. You should know where to shoot on it anyway, but I can understand where some people would want to say, no, I specifically want to shoot the targets that are in my competition division, whatever. So something like that. But there's other modifiers too that could be utilized that some folks are looking for. So I would say if there's a modifier that's implemented and it changes the game fundamentally, just remove it from the leaderboard if it can't be filtered. So like infinite ammo is a great one. If you have infinite ammo on, some people would say, yeah, they shouldn't get a score. That's fine. But it's filterable, right? You can go to the leaderboard right now and filter out those people with the infinite ammo on, not having to reload. So kind of things that you can do there, create those divisions that you want to compare yourself against. So yeah, if it can't be filtered out, I would say just modifier it to have a 0 score or something like that for the leaderboard. Training log per stage performance in the mobile app, like the last 10 runs average and then a rolling season average would be kind of neat. The data already seems to be there. Like when you shoot a drill and see the end of the drill, you get an up arrow or down arrow next to it. I think that's just based on your performance of the stage overall. Are you doing better or worse comparatively? But being able to see that in the mobile app, just be like, oh yeah, I'm really improving at drill X. And for my season, my rolling average is actually improved the season by some significant amount. I think that would be kind of neat for the data analytics. I think that's something that they're working on. Maybe in the dashboard, you see there's a couple of places that are under construction, but I think with the amount of data that's present, it's interesting to think about what could be done with it and how it could be presented in a manner that's actually useful. Some people want some data in ways that doesn't really make sense to me. Like it's a neat. If you go neat and then you never look at it again, it's not really worth the time to do it because that time could have been spent doing something else that was more significant. So the same with, like, I'll see people ask for a very specific niche target or a very specific niche drill. A lot of them can be adopted and adapted. They're training fundamentals, right? They're training the basics of things. If it's something that has 3 sets where you shoot this target 5 times and then you shoot this target 5 times strong hand, but it's all on an 8.5 by 11 piece of paper, and then you got to reload for the last target with I don't know, just some weird thing. A lot of that can be implemented on the Range Ranger just with basic targets, right? Think about what it's trying to train you on. A lot of the times it's nothing crazy. It's teaching you to shoot a small target, so A-zone hits only. It's teaching you to work a reload under pressure. It's teaching you to reestablish grip or shoot strong hand, whatever it is. Break that down and you can implement it on the Range Ranger versus having to have a specific piece of paper printed out because that piece of paper is what you're shooting, right? You should be able to take the fundamentals of what the skill is being applied to that particular target and implement it either by making the target smaller, put them further away, by holding yourself to a higher standard, make it go faster, or things like that. So just kind of things there with the nuance of all the targets that are probably available. Yeah, just something to think about. Allowing a user to start to set their starting level on the skills stages. So like with the transitions, right? I can get up to less than a second for the transitions. It's pretty easy, but by the time I get there, I'm usually pretty smoked. What I like to do is be able to, on the right-hand dashboard, toggle the level that I'm on with arrows next to it, left and right, and be like, no, I want to start on like level 9. I want to push myself until I can't do it anymore, for example. Having to work my way up, there's no, like, I want to pause, I guess, and rest for a while, but that may not always be what I can do or want to do. So I would think just being able to set my level on those stages to be like, no, I just want to start at level 10. That would be kind of nice to be able to do on the skill stages. It'd make them more useful in my mind too. If people are already crushing it and getting to level 8 or 9 right off the rip anyway, I don't see a need to reset it to level 1 every time. On the Range Ranger in particular, it'd be nice to have a hit factor calculator on the right based on the total number of points available on the targets that are present on the range and the last timer and hit time. So if you run the shot timer, just have that time pushed to the dashboard that's on your right or wherever you want to place it, and then have the targets that are available, right? They would present the number of points. So that way you can just do a quick hit factor calculation. You'd look at it and be like, okay, I got these hits. Here they are on this target. I'd also like to be able to make it so the targets that are presented on the right when you're using like USPSA targets or anything like that, showing the hits for ranges, I'd like to be able to increase or, essentially control the time that those little green dots are displayed. So like on the zeroing range, for example, I'd like to leave those there and just really see how they're stacking up. Like they can shrink to a smaller level, that's fine. But I'd like to be able to say, no, I shot 25 rounds and they're all in the A zone without having to teleport all the way down, teleport all the way back. Generally, shot calling, I'm not shooting one and going, yeah, that was a good one. Shooting one and then going, yeah, that was a good one. I'm shooting doubles 5 or 10 times and then I'm going, okay, I know out of those, one of my strings felt bad and it was the third string or whatever, and I can go down and validate that, for example. So being able to change the time that those are present on the hits would be nice, and being able to have the hit factor calculator on the Ranger just somewhere displayed would be kind of cool. Being able to change the time of day or the sun. We have sunny and 75 all the time on the range, it seems, except for the snow stage and the nighttime range. But I think it'd be nice to be able to pick where is the light source, even if it was just a couple, like dawn, dusk, bright afternoon sun, whatever. Being able to choose those different lighting conditions, sometimes put the lighting right in your face, if you could choose that. I think it would be good for training aspects if we could choose that light source area somehow, maybe under the stages or maybe under the, not the stages, the backdrops. I think that would be handy, being able to do that.
Stand by.
This one's going to get a lot of hate, and to be honest, I could take it or leave it, but I'm going to mention it anyways. Add a PCC controller that utilizes the left-handed controller from the Quest. If people want to use PCC in the USPSA or whatever competitions and stuff, that's fine. Even in here, you could say, okay, yeah, you're using the left controller. It's a PCC controller. Here's your own leaderboard, whatever, things like that. The thing that I want to mention here, though, is there is there is a not a cost impact with it. The handsets themselves are retailing for $200, right? So even if you use a discount code, which by the way, GHOST6, GHOST6, saves you 10% if you haven't ordered Ace yet and you're just listening to this for whatever reason. But they're $200 for a handset that is pistol size. For one that is pistol caliber carbine size, they're vastly different, from the MPX to the JP Customs to all the whatever people have out there. There's round handguards, square kind of tubular handguards, different things. So you're never going to please everybody with that thing. And then B, making something with like an adjustable buck stock, making something that has weight to it that realistically replicates what a PCC would have, making something that is affordable, right, and being able to be shipped to places is extremely I could see being extremely cost prohibitive for a lot of people, right? I could see that being a $500 item. How many people would purchase such a thing? I don't know, but usually when we start talking about Ace with a lot of folks, they're like, oh, the handset costs $200, get the hell out of here. If it's a $500 PCC and maybe a couple hundred people adopt it, is that really worth the R&D time, worth the development time, worth the tooling time, versus being able to take something like the pistols and go, okay, the main guts of it are all the same, but all you have to do is change this 3D printed nylon smooth shell and how it's assembled. You got to kind of think about that. And I think a lot of people fail to think about what actually goes into making something like this. Even the ones that are for sale right now, aftermarket, for anything weighted with an adjustable buttstock, it doesn't come with the control portion of the controller. It's still upwards of $350, right? I don't know what shipping is on it, but if you included, the internal part, you're looking at another $100 right there. You're looking at $450. That's not insignificant. So just when people are, oh my gosh, everybody wants PCC, A, you're just the vocal minority, I think, in most cases. And B, I think it would be fine, but I also think in terms of realistic desires, it's something that needs to be weighed against those costs of like, would you pay $500 for it? And if you would, how many other people would? Is this worth a one-off or a couple people doing this, or is this something that is actually going to make value and increase the opportunity for a vast majority of people? Because if you've got market saturation and you're talking 90% of people are utilizing your product already, and this one thing will gain you another 3%, it's not really worth it. So I don't know the exact figures and data, but last time I checked in like USPSA, it was probably like 13% of people in the division. But again, not everybody shoots USPSA, and I get what people want to practice with or people want to practice with. But again, I'd ask, are you willing to pay $500? But yeah, it would be cool, right? If they could do a left-handed controller PCC and I could set that thing up, I probably would be one of those people that paid $500 and played around with it. I think it's fine. One of the things that's on this list, and rumor has it might be coming, if for those of you in the know, is dot occlusion. Being able to occlude the dot, I think, is an extremely valuable training aid, especially for those who are new to the dot. A lot of people say, "Oh, my dot's not zeroed. It's not going where I want it." 100%, it is. There are certain times in ACE where the dot has been off, right? The dot would present and the bullet would impact not where the dot was at. But I see a lot of people saying, "Oh, I need to zero my dot." It's probably not the dot. It's probably how you've been trained to use a dot, or you haven't been trained to use a dot, and that's fine. But the dot is zeroed at 15 yards, and where you place the dot is where the bullet's effectively going to go, unless there's a hardware issue or something like that. There again, I'm not saying it never happened, but I'll confidently say 99% of the time I see that comment, it's error between user and handset. The dot occlusion though helps people shoot two eyes open, helps people shoot who are cross-eye dominant, such as myself, helps people recognize that you're not watching the dot, you're watching the target and seeing the overlay on the dot. So I can't wait for that to actually get put into production. Might even beat this video out. Who knows? I would make it something too where there is additional instruction around the presentation of a dot and the irons in ACE. So maybe make a tutorial in there. I might even make one myself showing people how that all sets up, because a lot of people simply are coming from irons and they're like, oh, I get to try an optic on my pistol, great, and then they're presenting the gun and can't find the dot. Well, not finding the dot is different than the dot not being zeroed. The dot is zeroed to the barrel, not to your eyeball. So something to consider there. Going back to hardware, I think the Arctis is a good platform for a lot of folks. Yeah, it doesn't match a lot of the people out there having different real life pistols and things like that. I get that, but I would make a V2 that has adjustable back straps and a swappable trigger shoe. So like the MR920 that we have currently has adjustable back straps. This is great for the MR920. It's a kind of a smaller grip though. It's like a carry grip. And some people like a hybrid shoe, some people like a flat face trigger, some people like a rounded trigger. I think making the Arctis kind of like the modular beast and making it something where you could, for example, add more weight to the end of the slide by putting on a module, or add a flat face trigger or a hybrid trigger would be great. Being able to change out the back strap entirely to be able to change the angle of the gun, like those things would be really cool in a version 2.0. I'm not a big fan of the people who want removable mags. It's just something that you're going to trip on, or you're not going to sit there. I guarantee it. Everybody who I've talked to about this, they're like, oh, removable mags. One, it takes up space in the gun. That could be used for weight, like actual weight. Two, as they're falling out of it and they're landing on your feet and you're stepping on them, and it's like the Lego effect because you can't see them; they're not tracked. Reloading with them is impractical because you can't see the reload. You should be seeing the magazine go into the gun. The logistics of it, like when you're pressing to drop the mag, now you need another one on you to load into the gun. It's more novelty than anything. So, I would argue against that. Do that in real dry fire in a environment where it allows you to do that. Not add it to a version 2.0 of the handset. The other thing I wouldn't add to the handset is recoil. Not everybody. That's a kind of a blatant statement. Blanket statement. A lot of people say, "Oh, I want recoil." All the people who've tried it in VR have pretty well failed. I see a lot of people linking to a certain one that's an M9. That's never effectively worked ever in years. It's been on the market, I think, or in the market for the last probably 3 years now, and nobody's been able to get it to work as described. It's an idea. The recoil on those types of things typically doesn't mimic a real pistol either. So you're actually inducing kind of like a training scar almost by providing unrealistic recoil, which now you try to compensate for either consciously or subconsciously. And as a result, you're gonna go out to your real pistol and start doing that. Well, in dry fire, right? No VR involved, but just in dry fire, a lot of people press the trigger without even having a trigger reset, and a lot of people don't have obviously recoil with that. That'd be a bad day, I think. But the recoil simulators that are out there
Stand by.
either simulate recoil in such a way that it's unrealistic. It's like in the wrong direction. It's too weak. So you're still under gripping the gun. It has to be something that you have to be aware of, or it's something that's just so intensive to get into, like the Miles systems, for example. The wear and tear on the system, the uh, complicated, I was going to say engineering, but the complicated design of these things would make it so cost prohibitive. It's a good idea in principle, but it's not a good idea in execution if you get it right. And I know for me, like I can shoot ace in my mom's basement, and nobody's gonna know that I'm down there practicing. It's not loud or anything like that, and that's one of the draws to it. I can toss my wired headphones onto my headset, and I'm pretty quiet with it. Whereas if it had recoil, there would be some noise that's pretty significant in some cases. So I would argue against that for a version 2.0, but I would say having the ability to adjust back straps, triggers, weight, whether that be modules that bolt onto the bottom or to the front, depending on people's preferences, would be kind of cool for a more
Stand by.
universal handset. Upgrading the slicing the pie scenario to include objects in the way, like an enclosed room layout and various angles for targets to require movement in the space to get on target. It's something that I think would be valuable for that ask. I know there's a lot of people
Stand
in the
by.
community that want more of that kind of thing, and I think having a dynamic kind of training range like that would be valuable. Obviously the scope of the room has to be kind of limited just due to the limitations of VR and things like that. But I think it would be kind of neat and not overly taxing in terms of implementation to be able to say, yeah,
Stand by.
here's a practice range where you can go in and press the button, and there's different people behind there or different targets. There's different
Stand by.
objects in the way that you have to kind of make your way around and things like that. It's uh, it's kind of like a play on the Ronin range, the Ronin tactical outside range, and the slice the
Stand
pie.
by.
I think it would be a cool iteration for version 2.0. It's not something I use a lot because I don't have a ton of range most of the time. But if I had a larger area, I think it would be something that I'd be interested in just from the defensive aspect,
Stand by.
practicing on those types of things and keeping it still to this shooting sports type of mindset, right? I know there's some people who are like, oh, absolutely no defensive stuff. Well, again, I think it's one of those things where
Stand
Ace
by.
is one of like Ace can apply pretty much to anybody who wants to get better at pistol shooting. It can be defensive focus, it can be the shooting sports, it can be various things. But so long as it stays away from the very tactical, you know, very realistic, very how do I say this?
Stand by.
Very very niche training environments and training scenarios. I think it'll be fine. Personally, just keeping it with cardboard targets and a couple of things in the way. It could just be simple as a couple of barricades and things to scratch that itch. I don't think there needs to be anything force on force. I think that's very much a skill that needs to be taught under supervision with instructors, not something that just people go out and do. Right?
Stand
If
by.
they think they can do that kind of a thing in a virtual environment and gain much from it without that supervision and the instruction and training that goes along with it, it's not the way to learn it. If you need those skills, go seek those people out and get involved. But it's not going to be something that you learn in VR playing multiplayer against your buddies. It's as effective as paintball at that point, and yeah, airsoft, things like that. Probably even better paintball and airsoft because there's a little bit of a pain element to that. But
Stand by.
yeah, I'll leave it at that. Uh, that's really it. You know, from where I started out with Ace a year ago, uh, this random VR thing. I don't even know how I ran upon it actually, but I remember looking at it and going, "Oh, it's a VR game." And then as soon as the handset arrived and I got it in my hands, my whole vision of this thing changed. I said, "No, this is something special. This is something unique." And
Stand by.
it's not so much the application, but the interface of the handset to the application that makes it different than anything else on the market today. I know others are trying to get into the space and do what Ace is trying to do, but I can tell you if Ace continues to improve at the rate that they've improved over the last 18 plus months, I don't see them having any issues so long as they keep that up. I think there are plenty of areas where they could improve their product over time, and I think they're dedicated to that improvement over time. But I also think that people need to be realistic with the expectations on a small development team and company, and b
Stand by.
the limitations of the hardware and the limitations that are present simply because of like where things stand today in terms of cost value proposition or time value proposition. So I think some of these asks are
Stand
uh,
by.
a little outside of that, a little outside of both of those, right? It might be too much time, too much capital investment for little gain, especially in the short term. But I think some of them have some merit and can easily be implemented for
Stand
Ace in the
by.
future to be able to continue to improve. And I hope I see some of these. As a matter of fact, I know I'm going to see at least one of them here in the near future. And I can't wait to see what else the team at Ace has to come up with and keep pushing the envelope for this
Stand by.
hybrid dry fire, live fire. You know, it's right in between kind of training mechanism and training tool. And to be honest, it's just fun. You know, I see a lot of people that get really, really upset if it doesn't adhere to some weird rule that adheres to their version of the shooting
Stand by.
sports or their version of competition. But just you can just go out and have fun, man. Like it doesn't have to always be about being the best. It can literally just be go out, have a good time with friends. You know, do some things that
Stand
maybe
by.
you couldn't do in real life or don't have access to in real life, and just enjoy it. You know, get the uh, get the high score on the leaderboards, gamify it a little bit.
Stand by.
We'll let the B roll continue playing for a little while for anybody who cares. I think there's another uh, chunk of it, anyways. But yeah, let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. Have I said something that pissed you off royally? Has what I said changed your opinion on something? Maybe have I brought up some things that you think they really should implement and should prioritize, or do you think it's uh, do you think there are other things that
Stand
they
by.
need to be spending more time on improving in order to continue to be successful with the system that they developed up to this point? Curious to hear your thoughts. With that, we'll see you next time on
Stand
Range
by.
Time.
Stand by. 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 Stand by.